Welcome back to Tocqueville Talks. I'm your host, Brent Nelsen, and I'm the director of the Tocqueville Center for the Study of Democracy and Society at Furman University. It is summertime in Greenville, South Carolina, so I thought we should do something summery, like talk about swimming. But don't worry, we plan to tie swimming to Tocqueville, or rather Tocqueville to organize swimming, which I'm sure he would very much approve of. When Alexis de Tocqueville toured the United States in 1831, he noted the presence of what he called associations. These were community organizations made up of ordinary citizens who banded together to achieve a common community purpose. He considered these essential to democracy, but more than that, to civilization itself. And he was amazed at the prevalence of these organizations in America, where ordinary citizens do extraordinary things by banding together. Today, we're going to meet two of my friends, Cherington Shucker and Karen Neely, who have been very active in a civic association in Greenville County, South Carolina, that organizes a youth swim league. The Swim Association Invitational League, otherwise known as SAIL, has been around since 1964 and now organizes around 4,000 young swimmers in over 35 teams. Our conversation starts with a reading from Tocqueville's book, Democracy in America, which gives a sense of how important associations were to his view of Americans. So, here is our summer swimming conversation. Well, I am really glad today to have two good friends on the podcast that have nothing to do with the classroom at Furman University. Now, there is some connection to Furman, but these are friends of mine from the neighborhood and from other things that we do. I want to first introduce Cherington Shucker, and she's a good friend who still works here at Furman University in the alumni office. Is that right? Or
Office of Development, which includes alumni.
Okay. And then Karen Neely, who is my across the street neighbor. And I don't know, how long have you lived in the neighborhood, Karen?
10 years.
Ah, yeah, we've watched your children grow, and one of them was born there. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been great. But anyway, I am going to explain why these two good friends of mine are on the pod today. One of the things that Alexis de Tocqueville was known for when he came to America and observed how we lived in this egalitarian society, he observed that we joined a lot of organizations, and those organizations played a key role in the functioning of democracy in America. And I actually want to do something that I don't think we've ever done, which is quite unusual on a podcast named the Tocqueville Talks podcast. We've never read Alexis de Tocqueville. So I want to read from his famous book, Democracy in America, a little bit about these associations that he was so fond of. I'm in volume 2, if that matters, and here he is. Americans of all ages, all stations in life, and all types of disposition are forever forming associations. There are not only commercial and industrial associations in which all take part, but others of 1,000 different types: religious, moral, serious, feudal, very general and very limited, immensely large and very minute. Americans combine to give fetes, found seminaries, build churches, distribute books, and send missionaries to the antipodes. Hospitals, prisons, and schools take shape in that way. Finally, if they want to proclaim a truth or propagate some feeling by the encouragement of a great example, they form an association. In every case, at the head of any new undertaking, where in France you would find the government, or in England some territorial magnate, in the United States you're sure to find an association. I've come across several types of association in America, of which I confess I had not previously the slightest conception, and I have often admired the extreme skill they show in proposing a common object for the exertions of very many and inducing them voluntarily to pursue it. Among democratic peoples, all the citizens are independent and weak. They can do hardly anything for themselves, and none of them in a position to force his fellows to help him. They would all, therefore, find themselves helpless if they did not learn to help each other voluntarily. If the inhabitants of democratic countries had neither the right nor the taste for uniting for political objects, their independence would run great risks. But they could keep both their wealth and their knowledge for a long time. But if they did not learn some habits of acting together in the affairs of daily life, civilization itself would be in peril. A people in which individuals had lost the power of carrying through great enterprises by themselves without acquiring the faculty of doing them together would soon fall back into barbarism. Unhappily, the same social conditions that render associations so necessary to democratic nations also make their formation more difficult there than anywhere else. So basically, Tocqueville says, if we don't have associations, we don't even have civilization. These two neighbors of mine are involved in a civic association called SAIL, which, for those of you who do not live in Greenville County, is the most important summer youth activity in, well, in the county. And it's all about swimming. Young people swimming on teams against other teams from other neighborhoods. And so both Karen and Cherington have deep experience with this swimming association called SAIL. And actually, so do I. It's a long time ago, but my kids were very much involved in it, and I have good experience with it. And I have always believed that Tocqueville was right, that these civic associations are really important to democratic governance. So I just want to start out. Cherington, why don't you start out and just tell us the story of how you got involved in SAIL, and then we'll move on to Karen. She has an interesting story too.
Okay. Thank you, Brent, for having me. I'm excited to talk about SAIL. I have a 14-year-old daughter now, and we moved back to Greenville when she was 2.5. And one of the things I knew immediately was I wanted her to participate in swim because it is such the lifeblood of our community. And I actually didn't have the chance as a child because I didn't have a neighborhood pool in Greenville when I was here. Um, but the SAIL organization offers the opportunity, I think, to over 4,000 children in a summer to swim for 6 weeks. I mean, it's an unbelievable taking. But when my daughter came of age, unfortunately, it was also during COVID. So we delayed starting swim until she was in 3rd grade. Most kids start as a guppy into kindergarten or 1st grade, but we started in 3rd grade, and we truly found a pool that we could access because a lot of pool memberships are pretty full by the time the kids are in 3rd grade. You start pretty young. But we found a pool that we could join, and we literally dipped our toe in. I'll be real honest when I say that. I thought, what am I getting involved in? That first year, another mother and I said, if you do it, I'll do it, because we had heard stories of Thursdays that are sort of start at 3 o'clock in the afternoon until run till 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the evening. But what I was struck by the first meet was it's entirely run by volunteers. It is parents supporting their children. And so, you join a pool, they start their lessons, and they do stroke development and refine, and it's a challenging but friendly environment. And so my daughter took to it because I kept saying to her, you're just competing against yourself, right? What we want you to do is develop a lifelong habit of swimming. And so she took that to heart and just kind of started working and developing. And she now on her own tracks her own swim times, right? So she'll come out of the pool, ask the judge what time, what was my time? And then she'll go back and look and say, what kind of goal do I want next? But when you join the swim league, the sail team swim league, you're in multiple divisions, and the divisions have all sorts of different colors, and it's a complicated system. And I just knew that our team kept growing and growing and growing. And so it was very fun to be in a neighborhood that was evolving, right? Neighborhoods go through ebbs and flows as they age. And this one happened to be starting to build when we joined. And we don't live in the neighborhood, so we're an associate member. So Bryn doesn't go to school with these kids. Most of them go to church together, but these are her summer swim friends, right? That's how she calls them. They're her swim friends. And for 6 weeks, we're there 4 nights a week. And at the meets, the parents run these meets, and it takes from tent parent, it takes for parking lot attendants, concessions, to judges, to stroke and turn, to clerk of course, which is my favorite role because I get to know the kids. But it is every Thursday night for 6 weeks in Greenville County, where 4,000 kids swim, and it is a remarkable feat of organized chaos. That's what I'll say.
Yes, it is organized chaos, but the amazing thing is it's organized.
It is organized.
And it
It
takes a lot of work to do that. So,
is.
Karen, what's your story of getting involved in sail?
Thanks, Brent. It's great to be here too. So I have a daughter who's now 16, a son who's 13, and another son who's 10. And my oldest daughter, Charlotte, the Knoxes down the street, they gave us rides to school, and they're like, you should try swim team in the summer. And I was like, sounds great. And then we did, and we were hooked. Charlotte was 6 and just loved it. She could kind of basic swim, and they said, as long as you make it across the pool, you're on the team. So there we are. And I was pregnant with Evan at the time. We've been on it 10 years straight now. We just realized, haven't missed a meet. And Charlotte swims for her high school team. She swims year round. And we ended up, ours is a neighborhood pool, but again, I don't live in the neighborhood either. It's Pebble Creek is what it's called, Pebble Creek Swim Club. And that pool was going down and wasn't going to be available. And then my husband and myself and another couple decided that we could help that pool not go under. And so we bought it, and we've been running it ever since. Yeah.
So that is the amazing thing. You got involved in sail and you ended up buying the pool.
Yeah. So, everyone does little crazy things in their 30s, and I think that was mine. But to the effect of what you both were saying, I think my big thing, I'm from Michigan. We had nothing like this. And to go to these, even the practices, and just see how they're organized, your coaches are, they have experience, there's structure to it. And it is remarkable to see how everything pulls through. And it is filtered down through all the pools and all the divisions and all the teams. Every team's going to be a little different, right? Have a little different flavor. But for the most part, kind of like you said, there's a guppy program, there's a big kid program, and it is just really cool how they bring swim and make it accessible to the masses while still keeping like the quality there. And I was hooked. Like I tell people, as much as I complain, when I'm not sweating on a deck on a Thursday in summer, I will miss it.
Mhm.
But right now I'm a clerk of course, just like Cherington, and not always your favorite place when you're staring at water when you're so hot, but it's really good stuff.
Yeah, I want to go back to something Cherington said early on. We got involved in the early 90s. We had been in Greenville for a while. Our kids were eligible. They were old enough to be in swim, but we didn't have a swim team in our neighborhood, and we just didn't really know what it was all about. And when I looked at what was going on Thursday nights in neighborhoods, I said, this is nuts. I can't believe anybody would want to be involved in this. And even when I got involved, I thought, I don't want to be one of those pool parents that's all about, what are your kids' swim times? And um, are you going to be a timer today? Or are you going to be a stroke and turn judge or whatever? But we got involved and realized that, like many organizations, you start at the bottom, you kind of do the simple things, and then the organization itself begins to suck you in. And the longer you're there, the more you get asked to take on some more responsibility. You learn the system. You meet the people that are important. And I noticed right away that there were the cool parents who had been there for a long time. I felt like I was back in high school, honestly.
Yeah.
They're the cool parents, and they had a little inner circle, and they had all the big jobs. And then everybody else was sort of on the periphery. And then you sort of work your way towards the middle. And if your kid's a pretty good swimmer, then you also get a little, brownie points,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And but I was being a political scientist, I was just really interested in the structure of the system and how it brought you into um, this common purpose. Everybody is there to serve the children and to make them enjoy the summer, but also give them outlet for competition and those kinds of things. Was that your experience too, or did you all just go in right at the top?
Um,
Started as a floater, which and I finished the meet and I was like, they didn't need me. Whoo! I
Oh,
was
yeah,
like,
that's right. Karen, how about you?
um, so I had just had Evan, and I had three kids. So I was tent parent, and kind of like you said, you learn the outside on in. But I have to say, it's also the people. The people are fantastic, and it was really for our team, any level you were at. The person I started with temp parent at, we still are volunteering together, and clerk of course now. I love the girls. The women I do it with. They are like a lot of them though, kind of like you said, are summer friends or summer people, but it's so cool every single time, like in May, first practice. I think the parents are just excited as the kids to just see your summer friends. Even though we live in the same neighborhood, go to the same grocery store, I don't see these people till it's pool time, but can't wait to catch up. There's so much in common, and I love that about it.
Mhm. How about networking? And I know this is taking it beyond
Mhm.
kind of the summertime and summer friends, but do you have any examples or stories of maybe business connections that have been made or political connections or yeah, those kinds of things, maybe church cooperations, those kinds of things?
Um, I I do. I'm intentional about trying to meet somebody new every season because you do kind of get with your either guppy or older kids, right? You get into your same age bracket, 11, 13 kind of. And so I try to meet other parents as tent parent, as a clerk, of course. So I'm wandering around and lining up the kids. So I get to know the kids first, and then I'm always like, well, who's your parent, right? Point your parent out to me because I'm lining them up for the events. And so then I'll try to go over and talk to them about, this is what the time the child set, because I'll try to ask the kid, here's your time, what do you want to beat? And so kind of making mini goals. But that way I get to meet the parents. This is a side note, but my parents come because it's multi-generational, right? The grandparents come and support the grandkids, which I love. But my dad has made many a friend, whether he's wearing his Vietnam hat. So he's connecting with other folks that were in Vietnam that have nothing to, he would never normally know. So yeah, I did have somebody ask me about a job just at this last meet. They were like, I'm looking for a job. What do so there are these connections formed over years, right? Because you have a very finite time period with them each Thursday, right? And you're doing a lot in those Thursdays. But then you have this moment of like, I remember you said, I'd love to follow up with you about that. So that's been my experience.
Karen?
Yeah, I know my husband has particularly some business, but I'll say carpool. Uh, my sons are dyslexic, so found out there was another family in the neighborhood that also went to the school that they were going to. So that was pretty important for us. But even just knowing, oh, this person lives here, and they do go to our church because our church is kind of big.
Mhm.
We've had that happen as well.
Yeah. So how about the structure of the system? Each pool or each team has a sale representative. Um, and that's kind of the lead person in that particular team. Have either one of you or both of you been sale reps before?
I
No,
No.
have,
no, Sherrington. Yeah,
I
Karen, you
have.
have? Yeah.
So when we got the pool, our team was falling apart because everyone thought we weren't going to have a pool, so they went to other teams. And so when we got the pool and we were going to keep the team, then all of a sudden we're like, all right, who's going to be our sale reps? And no one was going to volunteer. And I told Matt, I was like, we didn't do all this for nothing. So I volunteered, and thankfully Heather Knight from Half Mile did too. She's a lovely person. And I got to learn how to be a sale rep for 2 years, because it's like a 2-year position. And as you said, it's all laid out wonderfully. Like, you get this binder and it tells you all about the organization, how to organize your team, how sale is organized. The sale reps are also in charge of the meet. So you know everything from that, like said, floater, parking attendant, tent parent, clerk of course on up, and who needs to do what. So you know all the ins and outs if you're a sale rep. So there's usually 2 for each team. And you go to your meeting starting in February and figure out how you guys are going to run your meets and anything that's important for sale as an organization.
Yeah, I didn't jump into it quite as fast as you did, Karen, but I watched for a while, and then eventually I got elected sale rep, which isn't hard because nobody really wants to
No.
get the job, right? And my wife Lori had been a rep for a couple of years, and eventually I got it. And so you have to run your local team meetings of the parents. You have to make sure, and this is during the winter, right? You have to make sure everybody gets trained in their particular position, which is something that the county organization has to run. They have to run these training sessions, and they run all winter, and everybody has to, get approved for their particular position. And then you have to register the swimmers, and you have to make sure the pool is in good shape, which I guess for you, Karen, it's all wrapped up in the same
Yeah, a lot of
in the
stuff
same
there.
thing. Yeah. And then you have to go to these sale rep meetings. Um, Karen, why don't you describe what a sale rep meeting looks like?
So when I went, we were in the bottom of the First Baptist Church off of Augusta. I don't know, there has to be like 50 people there, and then the president or the board is at the front, and they call it to order, and it runs very very structured and organized, like pretty much I feel like any official meeting. They call it to order. We bring up items, we approve it, we vote on them, or someone has to approve it second. There's a vote sometimes. We have a secretary taking minutes. All that stuff happens there. Like I said, it's a very classical organization, and they try to make them very efficient of everyone's time. And so I guess that's what I would say. It's very effectively run, and everyone seems very friendly there. And then we would break up in our smaller groups, like I said, our divisions by our colors or that, and we'd figure out the swim meets and who was going to host divisionals, and that was kind of it.
Yeah. Well, it was so impressive to me when I went because I noticed the same things you did. There were a lot of people, but it was run like an official organization, right? By Robert's rules, and everybody up in front seemed to know exactly what they were doing. There was kind of, again, a hierarchy. It was more like the bigger teams had more power in the organization, but those are civic skills that people learn because they're involved in an association like this. And I learned a ton about how a meeting got run, and I had a little experience from Furman, um, from faculty meetings and things like that. But I thought Sale was a really good place to learn how to run an effective meeting, how to get things done, how to fight if you needed to. And I don't know about your time on there, Karen, but there were some big issues that came up during our years, and you had to learn how to debate motions and fight your corner and accept it if you lost and move on and those kinds of things. So I thought that would have very much impressed Alexis de Tocqueville if he had seen that still after 250 years people are running meetings officially in these voluntary organizations. So I thought that was impressive. I don't know.
Bring up training.
Yeah.
It's one of the things when I decided to move out of my free floater position because I was like, "Oh, they'll tap me if I need me." And I was like, "Whew, they don't need me." I decided to become clerk of course because after my second year, I was like, okay, I need to take more responsibility, right? I was seeing this, the labor of love that folks, sale reps and others were putting into this. And I thought, okay, I need to put more in, right? This is energy and effort. It's not just training, it's certification. I thought I would take this little swim test, no big deal. And for a person who had not grown up swimming or even understood the strokes, right? So you do the training and then you have a test and you can fail the test. And I failed it the first time
Mhm.
because I didn't take it seriously enough. I really was like, oh, I'm intelligent. I can figure this out. No, I failed it. And I was like, well, doggone it. I got to go watch the training again. But I loved it because that's the rigor, right? For
Mhm.
an organization to thrive and evolve as it has. I mean, this has been going on more than 50 years at this point in time. You have to have a level of knowledge and competency to continue. So to your point about just training and emission efficiency run meetings, same thing for the volunteer talent, right? It's not just to show up, it's to actually activate you and you gain skills. So I just thought that was an interesting. I
Yeah.
reminded myself quickly of like, oh yeah, you got to pay attention to these trainings.
How about you, Karen? What have you been trained as?
Um, I've done timer, I've done head timer, and clerk of course is kind of where I always get pulled, which is fine. I love it. So, like she
Mhm.
said, and it is knowing it. I think it's neat how they keep to the integrity of the sport. If you end up doing year-round swimming, they run their meets the same way, and kind of like you guys were saying, like, yeah, they're quick. You have to know what the strokes are. You have to know how, if you can combine events, how would you combine it so it'd be the most fair that you can run this meet efficiently, but it's still keeping to what they would, what is fair competition. Or as you guys are saying, stroke and turn, like I tell people about that and they're like, really, for your neighborhood lead? I'm like, yeah, but it's how they learn, it's how we become better. And um, we have officials at the meet and that, and it is all volunteers and they put that time and effort into it, and it is quite remarkable.
Yeah, it's really a hard call when you have to disqualify a 5-year-old for not doing the breaststroke correctly. But it is how they learn. And
It is.
so, yeah, I was trained as a stroke and turn judge and as a what do you call the deck chief? I forget the
Contact, something of that
Deck ref?
deck
yeah,
rep.
the deck ref. But then I settled in as starter.
Mm.
I really loved starting because I could see every race, and that meant I didn't miss any of my kids swimming. Whereas doing any of the other jobs, you sort of miss your own kid, right? And so there is a sacrifice you have to make to keep this whole organization running. If you're sitting out in the tent with the kids, you don't see anybody's race. If you're even clerk of course, you're lining kids up, you're not watching the races. So I find that that kind of sacrifice that people make for the good of the whole, for the common good, is again something that is pretty unique to our culture and our democratic culture, and that's something that Tocqueville would very much admire. Um, as we wind this up, I do want to bring up a more uncomfortable topic that Cherington and I have chatted about. Sale was started in 1964, and as we all know, that was a tumultuous time in the South, and Sale may have been part of the whole desegregation debate. So why don't you tell us a little bit? Because I wasn't in Greenville back in '64. I don't think you were born yet either, but
Wasn't born then, no.
no, no,
Uh,
no.
the actually this is cataloged in the most recent book, Some of Us, SUM, that was a bestseller about 2 years ago. But I heard it from my mother. So my mother grew up in Cleveland Forest, the neighborhood that is along Cleveland Park, and there used to be a community pool there. And when desegregation happened, The city, of course, decided that there was no longer going to be a community pool. And so they first filled in the pool. They kept the water in and they put seals in the pool as a zoo attraction.
You mean like the animal
The
seal?
animal,
Oh
yes.
my goodness. Okay.
Oh,
And so it became a seal attraction, which was an insult to everyone, right? That this childhood experience that only one slice of Greenville had actually participated in, um, then was unavailable to everyone, right? And that's really nicely cataloged in the Sum of Us, the book that this information came from more accurately. But my mother's story is the pool that she had grown up in, which was Cleveland Park, was filled in, ultimately became the tennis courts, and it was all to prevent kids interacting, white and black children interacting. So an outcropping of that, an unintended consequence, were neighborhood pools. And so that we know that neighborhoods are already racially divided, right? And so that's how the neighborhood pool became popular in Greenville. And it started with, the Parkins Mill area and others, and just grew from there. So the gentleman who started Sale, bless him, he had a long history at Furman. Actually, he was the Sigma Chi rep and did wonders for that organization. Frankly, his son still lives today and is a friend of ours. He recently showed off his dad's starter pistol, right? The pistol that they would start with. They would actually shoot a gun
Yes. Yeah.
back in the
that's
day.
Not
exciting.
anymore, but yeah.
The original pistol that he would shoot with. But Max is the son, but Max talks about his father had this idea of starting a summer swim league, and here it is, more than 50 years later, and a remarkable experience, that, to Karen's point, it has made swimming accessible to the majority, right? It is still a predominantly white neighborhood centric experience. But there are community pools like the YMCA and the Croc Center and others that run teams that you can participate in from that community aspect. But it's still largely centered on neighborhoods. TG, West Greenville Aquatic Center, is also a very popular place for year-round swim.
Mhm.
And that's a whole level of intensity that takes that takes summer swim and takes it like ratchets up. But Greenville has, a complex past, as most southern cities do, but in particular with Sale.
Yeah.
That is,
And
it is,
it's still pretty racially segregated.
it is. Yeah,
Because the neighborhoods are racially
because the
segregated.
neighborhoods, exactly. It's
Mhm.
just a byproduct of that. I don't think it's intentionality by any means, right? But it's
Mhm.
just where economic resources were deployed
Mhm.
many, many, many decades
Mhm.
ago.
And some of these neighborhoods back then were racially exclusive.
Correct.
They were written
There-
into their HOA organizational documents that they were for whites only. So,
Well, the red
um,
printing from the banks, the deeds were written that
right.
way. Not even just HOAs, but the deeds were written that way.
Yeah. So complicated history. Um, it, yeah, I mean, there are African American kids that are swimming
Yes.
in Sale now, but they are still quite a minority. I don't know about your pool, Karen. Pebble Creek, I don't really know
Yeah.
that much about the racial makeup.
Um, got all kinds. We are an open membership pool, so you don't have to live in Pebble Creek to be a part of Pebble Creek. It's actually Pebble Creek Half Mile Lake, two neighborhoods. But yeah, so if you want to come and you want to join the swim team, you can join the pool and join the swim team. You don't
Yeah.
have to live there. I do like the fact that, like I tell people, it's like one of the last neighborhood sports there are.
Mhm.
And it is nice because a lot of the people live together, but at our pool, they also live in Travelers Rest and they live a few other places. So we have that availability. And
Mhm.
I don't know, we don't really look, I guess, at our team racially. So I have never really done that. But I mean, we have all kinds there. We
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
that
Well,
kind of representation, which is great.
that's good. The last question is, have you all seen any political connections between Sale and the political parties or county council or anything like that. Does anything come to mind?
Well, where we are in Pebble Creek, it gets a little bit charged because we're also associated with the golf course there. The pool is not part of the golf course, but people think it is. And so county council meetings that we've been to, just for different reasons on parking or development. But other than that, not so much.
Mm-hmm. But that is important, especially for development purposes,
Right.
because I know they're thinking about taking the golf course out or something like that, building more on it. Maybe I don't have that right.
He closed down part of it and he's developing part of it, and then he kept, I think, the other part public.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's got some different plans for it for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Cherington, do you know of
Yeah,
any?
I've never had any political conversations around the pool, but partly because you're just so busy running ragged. The kids are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Great.
I think it's a place where kids get to be kids. I'll be honest,
Mhm.
and I also think it contributes. Karen mentioned her daughter's swimming for her high school. My daughter swims for her high school starting in 7th grade. To have, I think it's 12 pools in the Greenville County system that actually have high schools that have pools. It's pretty remarkable, right?
Right.
And so I think this summer swim has contributed to that additional team sport environment in the high school environment that broadens beyond football and basketball, right? Or volleyball. It enables more kids to participate in high school athletics if we hadn't had SAIL.
Mhm.
Sure.
Well, I do have at least one example of a sale president becoming chairman of the local political party.
Oh, what's your
Uh, and I won't say her name, but there are people at the local level who have found their political voice in Sale, not because Sale is political, but because they learned how to organize people.
Yeah.
And again, this is something that Tocqueville would have really picked up on, that it's these civic associations that teach the democratic process and also bring to light natural leaders, and they go on. So I would imagine, and I've never done this, but if we polled our city council and our county council, I wonder how many would have been involved in sale at some point. Um, it's
Very good.
a good place to learn leadership.
Well, and it's a great place to form your base.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, if you're in front of all of those sale reps, right? So you're working across the county.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think that is one thing that's unique, right? If you are the sale rep, you're meeting folks across the county. I feel the same way just going to a pool that's not my neighborhood, right? I meet people from everywhere at that
Yeah,
pool.
that is true.
And I
But
guess you guys look at it through a different lens. Again, you being political science, I look at it such as a community. I know more about Greenville because we've been to that pool, right? Like when someone says, "Oh, I live here," I'm like, "Oh, I've been there. We've swam there."
yeah.
Um, so it's interesting because I've never would have gone to some of these places unless I had a swim meet there, and so now I know. And being able to, as you know, you work with other clerk of course, right? Because it's not just your team, but the other team has volunteers as well, and you guys are working together. So I've had the opportunity to work with different people, and like you said, it really does strengthen your ability to form community, to work well with other people, because you're going to get this meet going, you're going to run it well. Like you said, you have you're vested because you want your kids to have this great experience, but everyone else too. I love it for that. I really do.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably a great place to end. SAIL is a wonderful civic association, and thank you both,
Thank
Karen
you.
and Charrington, for exploring your own experiences and helping me remember the distant past. I still, I do miss, I do miss the meets. Believe it or not, I miss firing the gun. No, we have a beeper now,
The
but
start of this. Yeah.
I do miss that. So
Hey, you can come on over, Brent.
yeah, I'm sure. Well, I always thought maybe my grandkids would be close by, and so far, all of my grandkids live far away from
Oh,
from Greenville. But there's still hope for my youngest son and his wife. So we're maybe I'll be sale grandparents at some
that would
point.
be fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
Brent. Karen, nice to meet
Thank
you.
you. You too.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to Tocqueville Talks. This episode was produced by Audrey Enghauser. Lucy Southwell provided administrative support. The theme music is called The Girl I Left Behind Me, a popular folk song in early 19th century America, here performed by Jacob Taylor Armerding. To learn more about our lecture series and events, our Tocqueville and Beaumont Fellows programs for undergraduates, and to listen to episodes, watch event recordings, or support our work, search on Google for the Tocqueville Center at Furman University. If you enjoyed the episode, please like, subscribe, comment, and share Tocqueville Talks on all your favorite listening services. And visit our YouTube channel for full recordings of past events and episodes. Until next time, goodbye.